In August of 1590, a ship anchored off the coast of Roanoke Island in modern-day North Carolina. John White, the governor of the fledgling English colony established 3 years earlier, stepped ashore. He had returned from England with desperately needed supplies, but as he and his men climbed the sandy banks, they were met with an eerie, suffocating silence. The settlement was completely deserted. 150 men, women, and children, including White's own daughter and his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, had vanished without a trace. There was no signs of a struggle, no blood, no charred ruins indicating a violent attack. The houses had been carefully dismantled and the colonists' belongings were gone. The only clues left behind were two words carved into the wooden posts of the settlement. On a tree trunk, the letters C-R-O were hastily etched. On a massive wooden post of the fort's palisade, the word CROATOAN was carved in block letters. Before leaving for England, White had agreed with the colonists that if they were forced to leave, they would carve the name of the new destination. If they were in distress, they would carve a Malthus cross above the name. There was no cross. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Did they starve, build a boat to escape, fall victim to hostile tribes, or assimilate into the local native populations? For over 400 years, this was remained America's oldest and most baffling historical mystery. Today, we will examine the clues, decode the carvings, and look at the latest archaeological discoveries to uncover the truth behind the lost colony. The story of Roanoke begins with the ambitions of Sir Walter Raleigh, a favorite courtier of Queen Elizabeth I. Raleigh dreamed of establishing an English foothold in the New World to challenge the dominant power of Catholic Spain. In 1584, Raleigh received a royal charter authorizing him to explore, colonize, and rule any remote, heathen, and barbarous lands not possessed by any Christian prince. Later that year, an expedition sent by Raleigh discovered Roanoke Island, a barrier island with fertile soil and strategic position. The explorers returned to England with glowing reports and two Native Americans, Mateo and Watchis, who became ambassadors for Raleigh's colonizing efforts. In 1585, the first group of colonists, composed entirely of soldiers and adventurers under the command of Ralph Lane, arrived at Roanoke. However, this military colony was plagued by bad luck, lack of food, and rising tensions with the local Secton tribe. Ralph Lane, a harsh military man, ordered the execution of Secton chief Wagenia, after accusing him of plotting an attack. Tensions escalated, and when Sir Francis Drake arrived at Roanoke in 1586 after raiding Spanish ports, the exhausted colonists abandoned the settlement and sailed back to England. A few weeks later, a supply ship sent by Raleigh arrived only to find the island empty. To maintain England's claim to the land, 15 soldiers were left behind to guard the fort. They would be the first of many to vanish into the Roanoke woods. Raleigh did not give up. In 1587, he organized a new expedition. This time, it was not a military garrison, but a community of families, including 17 women and 9 children, designed to build a permanent agricultural settlement. Raleigh appointed John White, a talented artist who had participated in previous voyages, as the governor. The plan was to pick up the 15 soldiers left at Roanoke and then establish a new colony further north in Chesapeake Bay. But when the ships arrived at Roanoke in July 1587, the pilot, Simon Resendez, refused to take the colonists any further, claiming the summer was fading and he needed to return to England. The colonists were forced to disembark at Roanoke. The search for the 15 soldiers ended in horror. The fort was destroyed, and the bones of a single soldier were found, suggesting that they had been attacked and killed by Native Americans. Despite this ominous start, the colonists set to work rebuilding the cottages. They received help from Mateo and CROATOAN Indian, who had visited England and remained loyal to the settlers. but tensions with other local tribes remained high, and one colonist, George Howe, was killed by native archers while searching for crabs. Fearing of their safety and facing a shortage of food, the colonists begged Governor John White to return to England and secure aid and supplies. Reluctantly, White agreed, leaving behind his family and 114 colonists. He promised to return within the year. John White arrived in England in late 1587, but he could not have chosen a worse time to seek ships and supplies. England was in a state of panic, preparing for an imminent invasion by the Spanish Armada, sent by King Philip II to overthrow Queen Elizabeth. The Queen ordered all English vessels to be commandeered for the war effort, preventing White from sailing back to Roanoke. In 1588, White managed to secure 2 sail prizes, but the greedy captains chose to hunt Spanish shipping instead of delivering supplies. They were attacked by French pirates, their cargo was looted, and they were forced to return to England. The war dragged on, and it was not until the summer of 1590, after the defeat of the Armada, that John White finally secured passage on a privateering expedition heading to the West Indies. He was merely a passenger on a ship whose captain was more interested in plundering Spanish gold than helping the colonists. For 3 long years, White had lived in torment, wondering if his daughter and granddaughter had survived on the edge of a wild continent. When the ships finally approached Roanoke Island in August of 1590, they saw smoke rising from the island, raising hopes that the colonists were alive. But when John White set foot on the shore, he found only a wilderness that had swallowed his family. The search party followed the smoke, but it turned out to be a natural forest fire, not a signal. When they reached the site of the settlement, they found the area enclosed by a high palisade of heavy posts built like a fort. The houses had been taken down, indicating that the departure was planned and orderly, not a sudden flight from an attack. On one of the entrance posts was carved the word CROATOAN. John White immediately understood. CROATOAN was the name of the island in modern-day Hatteras Island, located 50 miles to the south, and the home of Montenego's friendly tribe. White felt the surge of hope, the lack of a Maltese cross. The prearranged distress signal suggested the colonists had relocated safely. However, White's attempts to reach CROATOAN was thwarted by disaster. A sudden violent storm battered the ships, causing them to lose their anchors and nearly wrecking them on the shallow shelves. The crew, short of food and water, refused to search further south and insisted on sailing back to the Caribbean for the winter. White was forced to return to England, never to see his family again. Sir Walter Raleigh later sent several expeditions to locate the lost colonists, but none succeeded in finding a trace. It was as if the forest had opened up and consumed the English settlement, leaving only a cryptic carving to baffle future generations. What actually happened to Roanoke colonists? Over the centuries, historians have proposed 3 main theories. The first, and most widely accepted, is the colonists did exactly what the carving suggested. They moved to CROATOAN Island and integrated with the friendly Croatian tribe. Facing starvation and realizing that John White's return was delayed, the colonists likely decided to abandon their exposed island and join their Native American allies. Over time, they would have intermarried and assimilated into the tribe. When the Jamestown colony was established in 1607, Captain John Smith heard reports of Native Americans in the region who had light eyes, wore European-style clothing, and built stone houses. Later, in the early 1700s, English explorers visiting the region met the Hatteras Indians, who claimed their ancestors were white people who could talk in a book. Many of these Indians carried English surnames like White, Dare, and Cooper, and possessed distinct European physical features. Another theory suggests that the colonists split into 2 groups. The majority may have traveled inland to the Chowan River and settled near friendly tribes, while a smaller group remained at Roanoke or went to the Croatian to wait for John White. Some historians believe that this inland group was eventually slaughtered by Powhatan, the powerful chief of the Jamestown region, who claimed to have ordered the killings to prevent the English from expanding. In recent years, archaeology has proved exciting new clues that support the interrogation theory. Evacuations on Hatteras Island, led by archaeologists like Mark Horton, would have uncovered 16th century English artifacts buried in the Native American layers. These include a gold signet ring belonging to an English nobleman, lead musket balls, fragments of brass, and English pottery. These items are not trade goods. They are personal belongings that suggest English colonists were living alongside the natives on Hatteras Island. Furthermore, a breakthrough occurred in 2012 when researchers at the British Museum examined a map hand-drawn by John White, known as the Virginia Pars map. They discovered a small patch of paper covering a section of the map. When they looked beneath the patch, they found a hidden symbol of a fort located about 60 miles inland, near the confluence of the Chowan and Roanoke rivers. Archaeologists designated this area Site X. Excavations at Site X have revealed fragments of English pottery and tool shards dating to the late 16th century, suggesting that a small group of Roanoke survivors may have established an inland outpost. These discoveries suggest that the lost colony was never truly lost. Instead, they did what was necessary to survive, choosing assimilation over starvation, and blending their bloodlines with the native inhabitants of the New World. The story of Roanoke is not just a mystery of missing people, it is a story of human adaptation and survival. It reminds us that the colonization of the Americas was not a simple conquest, but a complex, often tragic encounter between different cultures. The 115 colonists of Roanoke did not leave a monumental fort or a written record of their fate. Instead, they left their genes, their names, and a mystery that has captured the human imagination for centuries. If you enjoyed this historical mystery, make sure to click the subscribe button and the like button. Let us know in the comments, do you believe the colonists integrated with the Native Americans? Or did they meet a darker fate? Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next historical deep dive.